What's up, YouTube? It's the Action Figure Grader coming back to you with another figure review, and I thought today we would talk about the figure subscription service release of Xamot. And as you can see here, Xamot has got a nice blue jacket and a briefcase and a pistol. How exciting, right? Well, it seems like kind of a boring figure. Well, for those of you who don't follow G.I. Joe or don't really have, or didn't watch the cartoons or collect the toys growing up, Xamot and his twin brother Tomax, which is just the reverse of each other's names, how cute. These guys were very, very central figures in the cartoon. And there was a twin pack vintage figure, vintage 2-pack of the two of them in their kind of military gear. And so they do have a very, very popular long history. And so when they were re-released, this came out in 2017 as part of the figure subscription service through Hasbro's Direct. When this was released, it was snapped up immediately by collectors like me who really knew the character and wanted to get a kind of an updated version of him. Hasbro had not really released an updated 25th anniversary carded version of him. There's been a few convention exclusives and things like that, but all of them had kind of, basically very light updates to the original outfit. But Hasbro very wisely decided to put them in their business attire. And for those of you who don't know who this guy is, Xamot and his twin brother Tomax were basically in charge of Extensive Enterprises. You can see here where it says Extensive Enterprises CEO. Extensive Enterprises basically acted as the financial conglomerate for Cobra, and Xamot was in charge, and with his brother, were in charge of running what appeared to be legitimate businesses to make money to funnel to Cobra in order to fund weapons development and vehicles and troop building, things like that. So the outside world viewed them as financial geniuses, which they were, but really all that money that they were making was designed to make Cobra money so they could, fund their operations. And in the early cartoons, you could see them in several of the cartoons, they were wearing this business attire. And so I thought it was a really cool idea by Hasbro to update the Crimson Guard twins to be kind of in business attire instead of the, tried and true vintage armor that they wore. So, the vintage 2-pack that has, the original, very original 2-pack with Tomax and Xamot goes for a lot of money in a high grade. I mean, you're talking $1,500 to $1,800 for a high grade, unopened, graded figure. So, it's almost impossible for those of us with reasonable financial means to be able to afford something like that. So I thought it was really cool that they decided to re-release Xamot. His twin brother Tomax, in a very similar attire, was released in September of this year, so last month. I've got one of those on reserve at Big Bad Toy Store, so I'll be getting that graded sometime in the near future. So we'll have both of them to take a look at. But in the meantime, we got Xamot here, and so let's take a closer look at him. This is a really, really cool figure. Again, for those of you who don't remember, there was several cartoons where he was kind of wearing this attire. And, you can see the artwork there. He's got the scar on his face. The kind of silly shtick that the twins were known for was anytime a G.I. Joe would punch one of the twins, the other twin would get hurt. So kind of silly, but, it's that's kind of like their thing, their superpower, if you will. And you can see this, it's very, very slight, but you can see the scar on his cheek there, on the right cheek. They made it a lot less pronounced than the vintage figure. The vintage figure also had a scar on Xamot that came in two different variations. There was a pink scar as well as a red scar. And the pink scar is considered a little more rare, I believe. So, but anyway, back to this figure. It does have the Extensive Enterprises briefcase as well as a pistol. You can see his vest along with the jacket over top. The only thing that I don't like about the figure is like the rose that you see in the artwork. They basically just splotted on some paint, and it just does not look good. I wish they had molded that more properly. You can even see where the paint's coming through, and you can see the blue behind it on the jacket. So I thought that was kind of lazy. given how nice the rest of the character is. And I mean, the head sculpt is great. He looks kind of douchey and, you know, he's got that nice kind of business look to him. I wish they had taken the time to mold a proper rose petal on his jacket. He also does have like the little mic here on his tie that was used in the and you can see it in the artwork here. But that was like kind of like a communications mic where he could use that and contact Cobra Commander or whoever. The briefcase does open, and inside the briefcase there is yen, Japanese yen, euros, and American dollars. And you know, there's like one large piece that kind of fills the entire interior of the briefcase, and then there's smaller bundles of bills as well. So that was kind of cool that they did that. You know, again, for those of you who don't follow the figure subscription service by Hasbro, basically you pay an amount each year, and then they would ship you figures over the course of the year, 12 of them in total per year, with a 13th figure free. This is the last year, thank God, for the figure subscription service. So they're doing away with it after this year because the demand has not been there, because G.I. Joe's brand is just kind of in the toilet right now. No one really likes to talk about terrorism or soldiers right now. I can't imagine why, with all the stuff going on in the world. And I say thank God that they're getting rid of it, only because my pocketbook can't take it anymore. They keep releasing these awesome figures. They're so well sculpted and well molded, and the artwork is so awesome. But they're expensive. You know, most of them average between $40 and $50 minimum. You know, and then you got grading costs, or if you get one that's already graded, you're probably, you know, close to, unless it's an auction, you know, you're at least $75 or higher, and for the rarer ones, it can go into the hundreds of dollars. So I've got a lot of other stuff I want to buy, you know, over the next year, and this is one less line that I can kind of put to the shelf for now, until G.I. Joe becomes popular again. But nevertheless, this is a really awesome figure, though, and you know, I did not get this one when this one originally came out. I did not act in time, and they were sold out within about 2 hours on Big Bag Toy Store, and I was not a member of the figure subscription service, so I was not doing too well there. And you know, by the time I got around to eBay looking for them, they were going for several hundred. You know, I think, you know, they were averaging, I'd say, between $100 to $150, and you know, I just couldn't justify spending that on a figure without knowing the grade. And then about 6 months of patience paid off, and one got listed that was graded already, and this is the one you see. So here's the grading on it. It's a 2017 Hasbro G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe Club exclusive Shattered Glass Xamot 9.0 uncirculated. I'm not really sure. I mean, maybe someone else who's more intelligent than I am can explain what Shattered Glass means. I've always understood Shattered Glass to mean like an alternate reality version of the character. So, you know, I used to have like a Shattered Glass Optimus Prime, where I assumed that meant he was a bad guy. He was dressed all in black and looked kind of mean. But I'm not sure why they call him a Shattered Glass Xamot, because he's still advertised, at least on the file card on the back, as working for Cobra. So maybe Cobra is the good guys and G.I. Joe is the bad guys in this Shattered Glass universe. I don't know. Maybe it was a comic, you know, a modern comic that I didn't catch. But anyway, I did find it interesting that this got a 9.0. It is uncirculated, which is nice, but you can see the dents on the top of the card there, and I can guarantee you that is from the clamshells that these, the plastic clear translucent protective clamshells that Hasbro ships their FSS figures in. They make them too tight, quite honestly. I've bought a number of figures, and the indentations that you saw towards the top there, that is fairly common for a lot of those figures. If the card back is not cut correctly, and not, you know, if it's cut just a little too high, and you can see here, you know, if you look at the edges on the left and right hand side, that top is just is cut a little bit too high, and so as a result, when you put it in the clamshell, it kind of digs in like that. So I was a little surprised this got a 9.0 once I received it. I didn't notice it in the pictures, but it seems like that would be more 8.5 kind of territory to me. But maybe that was the only fault, and everything else was so good that they rounded it up to a 9.0. But that is one thing to keep in mind if you guys are buying any of these FSS figures on eBay that are in the clamshell, the original clamshell shipped direct from Hasbro, is that some of them do dig into the corners up here and then on the sides from where the clamshell closes up, and at the top it's too tight. So be very aware of that. When I buy ungraded figure subscription service figures on eBay, I do not buy anything where the pictures shown are just the figure in the clamshell. It's too risky. You don't know what the figure really looks. If you're getting something that's grade worthy, I mean, if you're going to open it up anyway, then who cares? But for me, I tend to grade everything, so I don't buy anything that is in the clamshell where they haven't shown photos from all angles of the carded figure outside of the clamshell, because I don't know what kind of damage has been done to the card by that clamshell, and it happens quite a bit. So that's something to be very aware of when you're buying these, if you're looking to buy them, to grade them. And that's another side thing, is like I would love to buy all of these already graded and pay a fair premium for that, but because the G.I. Joe brand is so down right now, and because there's so few people that actually get these graded for whatever reason, that it's hard to find the figures that I want already graded. And I got lucky with Xamot here. I really was looking for one, and I paid a lot for it, but I didn't pay significantly over what an ungraded version goes for. So I felt comfortable spending that money, but ungraded, like I said, these go for a minimum, I'd say $125, and they're probably trending more towards $150 now, and I didn't pay much more than that for this graded version. And I just don't feel comfortable spending that kind of money on a modern figure unless I can see all angles of the card, the bubble, the figure, make sure there's no scratches. And I've bought a few, as you've seen in my other videos, where I did not see some scratches and things like that. But in general, I've tried to be as careful as I can. So, it's just something to keep in mind that, these cards they're pretty fragile. You know what I'm saying? Even when they get shipped by Hasbro direct to the consumer in a clamshell, you would think that they would be pretty close to mint, but it's those clamshells are not very good. They're not like star case clamshells that have a little bit of give to the clamshell. And so, anyway, I know I'm going on a tangent there, but, for any of you that actually do collect these, and there's probably not many of you, but for those of you that do, it's something to keep in mind, is if you're looking for a grade quality version of these figure subscription service figures, make sure you buy one from a seller that's got multiple angles, and not just one inside the clamshell, and oftentimes not just one where they just show the front of the card. I mean, I've seen a few where they just show the front of the card, and I'm not willing to risk it without seeing the back of the card. So anyway, so let's take a look at the back. It's just got the same artwork blown up. As you can see, it's got 510. So I was incorrect there. I looked at the 10 really quickly when I turned it over, but so this was the 10th figure in the 5th line. So that came out, let's see, last year on October. So yeah, I was right. Okay, so October of last year is when this came out. And again, this year is the last year for this figure subscription service, as far as I know. And here is the file card for it. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Extensive Enterprises. He's a financial genius, and all of his motives are profit-centered. So, a very cool figure. Like I said, just this past month, they came out with the Tomax version of this, and it's going to look very similar, obviously. The only difference that I've seen so far is that the scar is not there on this side, and he comes with a grappling hook, which was also a very nice touch by Hasbro, because the original vintage Tomax and Xamot came with a grappling hook as well as their pistols. So I thought that was a nice touch. But the Tomax version comes with the briefcase, the pistol, as well as a grappling hook. So it'll look, and he's still got the same attire. So it'll look kind of cool once I get him in to show him off versus this one, and we can kind of take a look at the differences. So. But anyway, that's a real quick kind of overview of this figure. He's definitely one of my favorite figure subscription service figures. I've got maybe, I don't know, 15 or so graded that at some point I'm sure I'll get through. You can see a couple of the others in the background that I haven't talked about yet. But and I also did receive word from AFA today that they've got a shipment coming back to me within the next week or two that'll have a lot of these type of figures in it. It's actually the figures from my very first video ever a few months back. So they came back a lot quicker than I expected. So we'll take a look at those when those arrive. So anyway, so this is the figure again. We'll do one quick close-up again. This is the figure subscription service, G.I. Joe Club exclusive, Shattered Glass Xamot, 9.0 uncirculated, and he's just an awesome figure. I mean, I really like him a lot. Maybe because I'm partial to him and the cartoon, but I just thought it was a cool update to the figure. So, thanks for watching very much, and I will be back soon. Talk to you soon.